Okay, you're going to use your note taker to take notes on Introduction to Slope. There are 4 different types of slope. So this is the first thing we need to know, and we need to know what they are. So if the slope is going up like this, and remember we have to have arrows at each ends, this is a positive slope. If the slope is going down like this, again, remember we have to have arrows at each end. This is a negative slope. If it's going straight across like this, absolutely straight across, kind of going along the x-axis, remember this is our x-axis right here, this is our y-axis right here. If it's going straight across like this is a 0 slope. And you have to be very careful because it's just a 0 slope, where this one, our 4th example, is vertical. This is vertical, and this one is what we call undefined. We also can call this no slope. So you got to be very careful with these last 2 because you can't call 0 slope no slope. It's actually a 0 slope. So make sure that you're being very, very careful with that. I also like to equate this to skiing. I've never been skiing myself, but a lot of people have seen it on TV, or you might have seen, know people have gone skiing, or you may have even gone skiing. So what I look at is if we're going up, and as we go up this way, if we're going up, this is you in the chairlift, getting ready to go skiing, and you're going to go up the chairlift. So that's a positive thing. Anytime you're going up, it's positive. Now, for me, if I were going to be skiing, here I am at the top of the slope, and that's the other reason why I use this analogy, because we say we're hitting the slopes when we go skiing. If I'm at the top of the hill and I'm getting ready to go down the hill skiing, it's going to be a very negative thing for me because I probably will just tumble down the hill. 0 slope, if I'm going straight across either way here like this, there is a skiing called cross-country skiing. And so we can actually ski going, just straight across. It kind of goes little moguls and stuff like that. It usually goes through woods and stuff. But there is cross-country skiing. So we can ski on 0 slope. What we can't do is we cannot ski. I call this skiing off a cliff. You're not going to jump off of a cliff because if you do, you've just fallen to your death. So that's our no slope because I can't ski. You can't ski on a no slope. So that's something to think about there. Just a little something to help you remember this. Okay, then we also have slope man to help us remember with our 4 different types of slope. If we think of having a little face here, we're going to have a positive slope, we're going to have a negative slope, we have that vertical slope, and we have a horizontal slope, so to speak. So if I think about this, positive goes up. There's my little eyebrow kind of thing for my little guy here. Negative goes down. My vertical slope, remember, was undefined. So I'm going to put like a U there to kind of help make his nose. And my horizontal slope has zeros on the end of it to remind me that horizontal slope is 0 slope. So that's our little slope man. Okay, so a couple of things to know here. Slope is equal to what we call rise over run. And we're going to work with that a little bit more. I'm going to show you what that means as we get to looking at some of the graphs and all. But you do want to kind of keep that mantra in mind, rise over run. You're going to hear that an awful lot, not only in Math 8 pre-algebra, but also as you move forward into algebra. Another way to think of this is the rise is what we call the change. Remember that little triangle means change. Change in y over the, the change over the change in x. And again, we're going to work with this a little bit more so you'll understand what this means as we move on. So these are the steps now for finding slope. If we're given a line on a graph, we're going to locate 3 points, at least 3. You always want to have at least 3. Locate 3 points on the line because they should make a line. You're going to connect those points to make a straight line. That's the whole point here. Because if I have 3 points on the line, remember it is always a straight line. Then you're going to use the triangle, that's our little rise over run thing, to determine rise. And again, I'm going to show you how this works. And the run. So we're going to use a triangle to do that. One of the key things is we're going to make sure that we always reduce our fraction, because that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a rise of a certain number and a run of a certain number. So we're going to have that number over a number, and we have to reduce it like it's a fraction. Remember also in class, we did talk about this. I gave you some extra notes, and I told you it's sort of my mathematician way of doing it. I said y is equal to mx plus b. And when we're talking about this, that coefficient right here, this m, this is my slope. So this is just another way to think of it. And we're going to, again, all these things are all going to start making a little more sense as we work with it more. The y-intercept, this is another important concept. It's where the graphed line crosses the y-axis. And again, when we're looking at that y equals mx plus b, what we're looking at is this b part right here. This is actually my y-intercept. So that will help us out there when we're using that equation. Okay, so these are just some basics, and now let's actually put this into action. Because we're going to determine the slope of each of our lines here. Now, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the slopes. I'm going to go ahead and look at these 3 examples here. And I'm looking to see, is it positive, is it negative, is it 0, or is it undefined? So my first one here, remember we talked about the skiing. I'm going downhill. This is my downhill skiing. If I'm going downhill, I'm very afraid. So therefore, this is going to be my negative slope. My next one here, I have this horizontal slope. Horizontal is like this. Remember, I can ski on that, so it is a slope, but this is my 0 slope. And then our last one here, this is going uphill. Remember, like I'm going up in the chairlift. We can also think of anything going up, like our grades going up. That's a good thing. So this one would be a positive slope. Okay, so once we've done that, this is going to help us now with the rest of what we're doing. So in this case now, with our negative slope here, I'm going to do my rise over run that we were talking about. So I'm going to start from actually right here in the middle. This is my 0, 0 point. And I'm going to do my rise over run. So as I rise up, I'm going to rise up 2 spaces. And then I have to run to the left. So this is a +2, I should say. This is +2. And then I'm going to run to the left. And when I run to the left, I'm running actually 3 spaces to the left. Hopefully you can see that better on your graph. But this is a net going in the negative direction, so this is a -3. And remember, our formula was rise over run. This is what we need to remember. So the rise was a +2, and the run was a -3. So right there, that is my slope. So, and remember, slope equals m, or you can say slope. So, or you can say even -2/3, or with the negative on the outside even. So there's my slope. Now also I can look and see what my y-intercept is, because I'm looking to see where is it crossing over the y-axis. Well, the y-axis is my vertical line, remember. This is my y-axis right here. And I can see that it's crossing right smack dab where the x is. So that's crossing at 0 on the y-axis. So my y-intercept is equal to 0, which is also the b part of my equation when I look at y equals mx plus b. We can also actually make an equation for this now, because if we think of our equation of y equals mx plus b, we know then that y is going to equal our m, we already said is right here. This is my m. So that's going to be -2/3x. And then my b is plus 0. This is my b right here. So that's it. There's my equation. I'm all done. I don't have to put plus 0. So that's all it is. So you can see we can do a lot of things just looking at this graph right here. All right, let's do it again now with our 0 graph, because this one's a little bit trickier. So this time our slope, we already kind of know, our slope is 0. That means 0 over any kind of a number. So it's going to be 0 over anything. So that's going to still be 0. So the slope is 0. And also we know that our y-intercept is right here at 4. So my y-intercept, or my b, is equal to 4. So again, if I use my equation of y equals mx plus b, y equals, I have 0x because this is my m, and my m is 0, so I don't have any x's. But I do have a b, and it's a positive 4. So this is what we're doing there, y equals 4. And that is actually the equation for that 0 slope. You're always going to have y equaling a number, and you won't have an x. All right, our positive slope over here. Let's do our rise over run again. I'm going to start right here on this point, and I'm going to count, and I'm going to realize that I'm going up 1 and I'm going right 1. That's my rise and my run. So that was 1 and that was 1. And that continues that same pattern. And it continues the same pattern. These are the little triangles we were talking about. So my slope, my m, is 1 over 1, which equals 1. My b is where it crosses the y-axis. Right here is my b. And so my b is 2. And then again, I can make an equation. So that means y equals mx. So there's my x. My m, we already said, is 1. There's my m. And I don't need to put a 1 in front of the x, so it's just going to be y equals x. My b is 2. So that means I'm going to have x plus 2. And then this is my equation for this line here. And again, we are going to work a lot more with all of these, so don't panic too much if you're not getting it right yet. You are going to practice and work with all these. Okay, so on these, we're going to find the slope of each of these lines. And I'm going to just do the first one with you, or maybe the first two. And you're going to do the rest of them on your own as part of your work. All right, so the same thing here. This is a negative slope, so I'm going to go ahead and write that this is negative. I'm looking for my rise over run. Well, since it's negative, I know my slope, m, is going to equal negative something. So I might as well put that down. And this time, instead of rising, I'm going to fall. And I know it's really hard to see these lines on my paper here, but yours, I think, hopefully you can read a little better. But it's going down and over 1, down and over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So each time, I'm going negative 1 over 1. My negative 1 was my rise, but you can also fall. So when I say rise over run, it also could be fall and run, because it depends if it's positive or negative that you're doing. So I'm going down 1, which is negative 1, and I'm going right 1, which is positive 1. So my slope is negative 1. And we already said it was negative. Then my y-intercept. Remember, we're looking to see where the line crosses over the y-axis. It crosses right there. So my b, my y-intercept, is equal to 4. And then again, I can also write an equation. So I know it's going to be y equals mx plus b. So what I'm looking for here is y equals, now my x is, my m is a negative 1. So I don't need to put negative 1x, I just need to call it negative x, because the 1 is understood that I only have one negative x sitting there. And I'm going to add to that, because it still is addition, because this here was a positive 4, so it's plus 4. And then this is my equation. Okay, we'll do number 2, because this one we can see again we have that horizontal slope here. This is actually the line we're doing. So our horizontal slope, this is 0, because if you think of your little man, or if you think of the cross-country skiing, that had the zeros at the end. And again, we can go through and we know that our y-intercept, or our b, is equal to negative 1. We know that our x is equal to 0. We already know that. Excuse me, not our x. Our m is equal to 0. which means we don't have any x's. So that means that my y is equal to -1. Every single time, my y is -1, and x is going to be a whole bunch of different numbers. Okay? All right, so this is the gist of what we're doing with slope, and this is, like I said, a little introduction to it. Basically, right now, what you need to be concentrating on is being able to find the y-intercept and what the slope is using rise over run, as we were talking about. And you're going to work on the rest of these problems on your own, and we'll discuss them.